Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to LAByrinth Theater Company. My name is Aaron Weiner and I'm LAB's artistic director. We spend a lot of time at LAB telling each other stories, and I think you're in for a real treat tonight with some pretty incredible storytellers telling some pretty amazing stories. I came to LAB 20 years ago as an intern, and I came for the work because I'd never seen anything like it, but I stayed for the company, for the opportunity to hang out with this special group of people. There's no audition process for becoming a member of LAB. There's nothing formal. And anytime someone asks how they can be involved, we say, we're a hangout company. Come to a reading, come to a show, and then hang out with us afterwards. And I miss that. I miss it so much, and I know you all do too. And so when Tim Guinea and Michael and Tom Dangora came to us with this generous offer to host a benefit on our behalf, and they said the idea would be hanging out in a bar, post-show, telling stories, it just seemed like a perfect fit. LAB is a company rich with stories and storytellers, but at the moment, not so rich in the wallet. We need your help. LAB has produced over 50 world premieres and developed over 250 new plays, but maybe more importantly, we're a home for our 115 members and the community that surrounds us. LAB members come home between projects to stretch and take risks and fail and grow, and those opportunities are vital for an artist's growth. If you believe that representation matters, that the mainstream should be a bigger stream, that all communities should see themselves reflected on stage, and that theater should be accessible for all, then you have something in common with LAByrinth. Please help keep our home and our mission alive. A big thank you to the Double Windsor, my favorite bar in Brooklyn, for letting me hang out on one of their bar stools and reminisce a little. Thank you to Tim and Tom and Michael for throwing this bash. Thank you to all of our storytellers tonight. Thank you to our members of our company who helped out. And thank you for supporting LAByrinth Theater Company. Now let's hang out.
Hey, how are you? It's Giancarlo Esposito. Just a bunch of actors sitting around talking, shooting the jive. The stories that actors tell are stories that you will never hear from any other person in any other walk of life. And so, you know, we're having a cup of coffee, sitting around chatting on a set, and everyone tells their best stories of auditions. Hey, I got one, fairly decent one. I went to audition for Oliver Stone for a film he was doing called Born on the 4th of July. In my brain, I did my audition process, took the steps that I always take before I go to an audition. I learn my lines, I try to figure out place, setting, time, and then I go to the closet, figure out what I'm wearing. In this case, it was easy, you know, something green and drab, something that resembled, you know, wartime. And so I got out the dog tags, the bandana, the sunglasses, anything with any kind of Vietnam signage on it, shirt, vest over it, black leather over green drab. Had my hair kind of wild like it is now with a bandana on my head at the time. So I walk into the audition and I'm completely dressed, and Stone says, "Hey, you gonna read for me?" And I said nothing. I just stared at him. And he was a little bit weirded out by that. He says, so you're gonna, and I went, I nodded, I gave him a look. So I sit down, I stand up, I sit down, I stand up, I stare him in the face over his desk, and I start reading the copy. I never come out of character, never say hello, nothing. I read the whole scene with him, and I feel like, oh gosh, I've got his attention. There's this long, huge silence, and he sits there and he stares at me. And he says, yeah, that was good. That was good. Now, you mind taking all that shit off so I can see you? And I almost busted out laughing. And he said, and so I take the bandana off, I take the sunglasses off, and I sit there, and here I am now rapping to Oliver Stone thinking, oh man, I totally got this gig. The guy likes the way I look. They came in, presented myself well, and we have this whole conversation about being in country and what it may have meant to be a soldier and all those good things that happen when you're in audition with a great director like Oliver Stone. I walk out on cloud nine, and I figure, this gig is mine. I never hear a word. Nothing. at all.
Hey, I'm Tim Guinea. I'm one of the producers of this event, along with Tom and Michael D'Angora. And as you know, we're raising money for the LAByrinth, one of kind of the most extraordinary dynamic theater companies in New York. And it's really easy to do. There's no amount of money that's too little and no amount that's too much. But it's really easy to do. Just scan the QR code below and donate. And we are getting there. We're already well on our way to the goal, and together I think we can do it. So let's all sit back and enjoy some stories. Really glad you're here.
So this one time we were doing Rent, and I guess I had done it so many times I wasn't thinking, and I knew I was gonna go up on the line. I was singing Light My Candle, and I know the line's coming up, and I know I can't remember what the line is, and then I went, I think that I dropped my snatch. And I know that I said it really low, because I knew, and that came out. Did our best to finish the show, and, not the show, the song. And when I came downstairs, my beloved costume person had a bag, a brown paper bag with, I guess they had created a merkin in the time that I said snatch and came downstage for a costume change. It was a merkin in a bag. That's pretty amazing.
Hi, I'm Stephen Weber. Several years back, I had the great good fortune to work at the Old Vic in London. Amazing theater, gorgeous, historic, and a dream come true. I was in a play called National Anthems, which is a fairly intense, though straightforward three-hander. At the start of the play, instead of a curtain rising, they had a tremendous American flag, which was attached from hooks in the theater ceiling. And when the lights would go down, the flag would drop quite dramatically from the ceiling to the floor, revealing me seated downstage rather close to the lip of the stage. And one night, I got into place, the flag is up there, and the lights go down. The massive flag drops with a very dramatic whoosh and thud. I could feel the breeze from it passing by me. And the lights come up, revealing me doing my little activity. And out of the corner of my eye, without looking directly at the person, I could tell that there was somebody seated dead center, front row, wearing a white knit vest with highly reflective glasses, with an empty seat on either side of him. And that person was Peter O'Toole. So needless to say, for the next 3 hours or so, my performance was rather distracted. No matter what cue I was waiting for, no matter what line I was supposed to say or what action I was supposed to do, all I could think of, all I could feel was that Lawrence of Arabia was sitting in the front row in a highly reflective outfit. He might as well have had a neon sign over him saying, "Hi everybody, I'm here." I didn't do so well that night. However, after the show, he came back and was quite gracious and effusive and 6'3" or 6'4", whatever. And while he didn't mention the fact that he sat very obviously in the front row, and I, of course, didn't have the guts to mention it, I suspect that this is something that he did fairly often, just to throw a curveball to his fellow thespians. And clearly I was enthralled, terrified, and scarred, but I wouldn't have traded that moment for anything. That's my story.
I have nothing to say. I have no stories.
Me neither.
So goodbye.
Okay, I got a story. In 1981, I was in Dublin at the Dublin Theatre Festival. And having a great time. We're doing a play by Fugger, and it was going just really, really well. It came around to the last performance, and we go out to do, it's a two-hander called The Island, and I played Antigone, and the other guy plays Creon in this prison, plays a wonderful play by Fugard. So we go out, and well, we're backstage waiting to go on for the top of the show, and they're holding and they're holding and they're holding. It's like a half hour now they're holding, and so somebody finally comes back and tells us, listen, we have an incident going on outside here. The aisle is covered. People have bought tickets. The show is really sold out. People are sitting in the aisles, and they can't start the show because there's no fire exit. So the fire department has been called, and they're coming down to get these people out of this aisle because we can't. The theater, it was Edmund Burke Hall at Trinity College, and they said, we just don't want to make the choice. So the fire department comes, several people, quite a few people, as if they were going to have some kind of incident, and they cleared the aisle, and we started the show, and we go without an intermission, but we realized that during the show, because it's a presentational end where these two prisoners and they give a monologue to the audience, and we see that there are people sitting all in all the aisles, that they really are still sitting there, and all the way across. So we come off exhausted and thrilled and fulfilled, to be at the Dublin Theatre Festival in '81 during the H Block Fest. It was just such a thrill. But we came off and we said, so they didn't remove the people? And they said, oh, no. They did. The fire department came and they removed the people, and they promptly all sat in those seats. The fire department sat in the seats. And that was like the greatest compliment. This is not a story about a great performance, Tim. It's a performance about Dublin and how much they love the theater. And so they said, we're going to sit here because we'll get out of the way if people need to leave. We'll be making people. But that was just an absolute thrill and a joy to have experienced that in '81.
Of course, I grew up in Northern Ireland, and Carol is my director of a play called Belfast Blues that I took many places around the world, I suppose. So I'm in London at the Soho Playhouse doing Belfast Blues, and someone asks me if I'll do an evening for charity, and I said, of course, and absolutely. And they said, we'll buy out the whole evening. It's for Parkinson's disease. And I knew the person involved. I said, absolutely, no problem. And they said, would you mind if we call it a Royal Gala performance? And I said, excuse me? And they said, a Royal Gala performance. And I said, well, why? And they said, well, because Princess Michael of Kent will be attending. And I said, it's for charity, I don't mind. So let's remember that I'm telling the story of a young girl growing up under British oppression during the 70s and 80s in Northern Ireland. And I have agreed to do my play, a solo play, 90 minutes long, about this. So I'm backstage, and the stage manager says, can you hold for 5 minutes? Okay. Can you hold for 10 minutes? Okay. Can you hold for 15 minutes? I said, what is going on? This is ridiculous. I'm anxious enough. I have to do this in front of all these people. Why am I holding the play? And he said, well, we're waiting for someone really important. And I thought, well, it must be Princess Michael of Kent, right? So 5 minutes later, I peek out of my dressing room, and there's a security sweep going on, right? So she's arrived, right? And the stage manager says, we need to keep holding. And I was like, why? And he said, there's someone really important, and they're not telling us who it is. And I'm shaking, right? I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then I hear over the tannoy, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for coming. Of course, you know I'm Princess Michael of Kent. She's on my stage, and she goes, she said, and I'm so sorry to keep you all waiting, but we're waiting for someone very, very important. So in the meantime, I have someone who's a wonderful entertainer who's going to come up and entertain you for a little while before Geraldine comes on stage. Now, I have to tell you that this person came to my home, and he did some of his wonderful kind of tricks and mind games. And actually, he bent some of my cutlery that was given by Queen Victoria. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce a Uri Geller.
No.
Oh
Geraldine
my
has
God.
never told me this story. This is unbelievable.
It gets better. So I'm backstage. I have Uri Geller bending spoons on the stage where I'm going to pour my heart and soul out about my war-torn childhood. He does all of that. I hear bravo, bravo, bravo. So when I were into like 35 minutes late, and I'm thinking this is not going to go well for me at all. So then my stage manager says, right, the guest has arrived. Great. I go out on stage. I start my play. Now, I have to say there are bits in my play that are very funny. Irish people are funny in the face of tragedy. It's very important in this telling of story. Radio silence.
Oh no.
90 minutes, nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Okay?
And it is hilariously funny, I have to say.
You would know because you directed. At the very end of the play, I say the last line and the lights go off. And when the lights come back up, every single person stood up in their seats, stood up and bravo, bravo. It was, and I was like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening. I don't understand this. And so, okay. Cut to the very end, we have an after party next door, and everyone's all sort of very, oh, you're wonderful. I had someone say, oh, you're actually quite feminine in real life. Lots of inappropriate things. And I said, who were we waiting for? Who was it? And my friend says, he's behind you. And I turn around, and it's Robin Gibb, the Bee Gees.
Oh my God. Robin Gibb.
Now, his wife was from Northern Ireland, and they had underwritten the whole evening, and he was stuck in traffic coming from their country man. That is my story, and it will and I think I have Uri Geller came back and bent a spoon for me and said, whatever it is.
That was in quick succession in the Mitzi Newhouse. I got to do the Scottish play. And the Scottish play, Mr. was Christopher Walken. And the lady was Laura Esterman. C.C. Hart was in it. Oh my goodness, just Peter Weller, Christopher Lloyd, John Hurd. It's an unbelievable cast, right? And we rehearsed and rehearsed. Oh, and we had the most, again, fascinating stage, which was just like subway grading, so that at certain points, if somebody walked on it, there was amplification, and it just sounded like this giant, threatening metal footsteps. And it was extraordinary. So Joe Papp, who was a genius and the greatest privilege to get to know him, came to the first dress rehearsal, later announced after the play was finished, I hate this production. I hate everything about this production. And I forget, it went on and on. It got very specific. But he had invested so much in it. And, it was a subscription thing at Lincoln Center and everything, that he made us run for the full run of the play, which I don't know, it was 3 months or something like that. We never opened because he hated it so much, but we did the full and we did the full run, and it was just fantastic. I mean, I think the work was so great. And as you can hear the actors in it, oh my God, it was just the most, but we never, ever opened.
That's so crazy.
And that is all I have to say about that, Kim.
Oh my God.
Originally known as Latino Actors Base, LAByrinth Theater Company was founded in 1992 by a small group of actors who wanted to push their artistic limits and tell more inclusive stories that expanded the boundaries of mainstream theater.
Latino Actors Base, LAB, Lab. I get it, clever.
Over 25 years, that small group of actors has turned into a company of over 100 artists.
The Lab now consists of a widely diverse group of actors.
And this ensemble truly drives the company, which is comprised not only of actors, but also designers, directors, musicians, and writers.
All committed to developing and producing new works for the stage, giving voice to new perspectives that are powerful, groundbreaking, and that have changed the face of America's theatrical landscape.
The Lab's journey has taken them from NTAR to New York Center Stage to the Public Theater to the Bank Street Theater, and now their newest home, the Cherry Lane,
which is New York's oldest continuously running off-Broadway theater.
Speaking of old buildings, in the first year of the Lab's existence, the company would meet for theatre exercises, self-taught workshops, in an unused black box theatre space that the Intar Theatre gave the keys to.
To keep the rats at bay, the company would line the door entrances with candles.
It was effective and atmospheric.
The first two shows that the Lab produced in the early 90s were David Devlinger's one-man show, Nobody's Home,
and family drama Rough House.
To raise money for these productions, the company would throw parties at David Anzuelo's Chinatown loft with a $5 cover,
which included potluck dinners, beer, chips, and Guillermo Diaz and Anzuelo taking turns as DJ while Sam Rockwell tore up the floor with his James Brown moves.
I mean, they would be happy if they raised $500.
At the turn of the century, the company really started to make waves when Stephen Adly Girgis had a string of success at the Lab with In Arabia We'd All Be Kings in 1999.
Jesus Hopped the A-Train.
And Our Lady of 121st Street in 2002.
All three directed by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
And since the early 90s, the LAByrinth Theater Company has produced over 50 world premieres.
That's a lot of premieres.
And developed over 250 plays.
Wow, that's a lot of new plays.
And each year, the LAByrinth Theater gives out the David Hogue Award to a supporter of the company in honor of their inspiring commitment to the Lab.
And the first recipient of that award might surprise you.
It was Madonna.
She won because she helped the Lab go international.
By bringing Jesus Hopped on the A-Train to the West End.
In 2011, the Lab made their Broadway debut with one of the most colorful titles in Broadway history.
The Motherfucker with a Hat.
Since its founding, the LAB has received 6 Tony Award nominations and 23 Drama Desk Award nominations.
And the Lab has even gone to Hollywood when their play Jack Goes Boating was turned into a movie.
From a group of underrepresented actors getting together to expand their craft in makeshift spaces.
To Broadway.
The West End.
And beyond.
Thanks to your generous support of the Lab tonight, that is just the beginning.
It's not really a story, but more or less just a comment about how thankful I am to have been chosen for this play, Unconditional, by Brett C. Leonard. I was introduced to a whole new group of people, a family that I just hold really close to me. I just want to say what Unconditional meant to me, to get to do it, and to be paired opposite Kevin Geer. Kevin Geer was kind of like my scene partner in a lot of it, but he also was such an amazing person, member. He was a theater person. He knew everything about everybody, everything having to do with theater. I just thought it was so beautiful. Like opening night, he gave all of us women in the cast gardenias. That's my comment about LAByrinth and one of their projects and one of their members. Love them.
I just want to say how much I've always admired the vision that the Labyrinth Theater has had and their capacity to stay together through all these different iterations. And some of my favorite actors who I've been fortunate enough to work with, like Portia, like David Zayas, Liza Colón-Zayas, Liz Cannavale, Flo Lozano, Beth Cole, directors like John Gold Rubin, writers like Stephen Adley Gurgis, Stephen Belber. I mean, these are people, Father Jim Martin, you know, who's one of the, you know, the great mainstays of the New York theater scene. You know, these are people that have this vision for a kind of collaborative realization of theater work. And I got the opportunity to work with them one summer. They were up at the Bennington College in Vermont when I was there for the Bennington writing seminars, and they asked me to come in and do a reading of one of John Patrick Shanley's new plays. And you know, they just have so much, I just have so much admiration for who they are as artists and for their vision and their capacity to keep on going. I think it's an amazing institution. Oh, by the way, I just want everybody to know that Aidan Quinn is joining us from his sauna today. Very fortunately, he's wearing something, you know, that's appropriate. He's covered, but he's, you know, he's just in there doing something very healthy as opposed to the rest of us.
Did I ever tell you about the time I was in a plane crash while doing a movie? We're in the Amazon and we are flying in on a Beaver de Havilland. It's like a big Airstream, you know, not that big, you know, the silver ones that they used to fly in all those movies in the 40s and 50s and 60s. Sure. They were built to survive plane crashes by the Canadian bush pilots when they were opening up areas in Canada. Anyway, we would fly this plane into the jungle and work in the jungle and stay in these little trailers and sometimes on a boat for 6 days. And on the 7th day, we got to fly in this, a few elite of us got to fly in this Beaver de Havilland, which was also the plane that was being used and flown by Tom Berenger in the movie. This is called
A Play in the Fields of the Lord.
Good one, Michael. 66 and you still got it.
All right, man.
I'm impressed. So we got in this plane, and this day was a particularly awful week, long week, where everyone was just fed up and just. So as we were, it was you know, a float plane, so it's on the water. So as we're getting on the plane and they loosen the ropes so that the plane can go, the plane, there was a current and it drifts right and hits right into this ship and dents the float right off the bat. So things weren't going well. So the pilot was swearing up and down and saying, oh my God, I told them not to let me go yet. And blah. So we get in, I'm in the co-pilot seat, and every week this pilot would train me when we flew there on the Monday morning and when we flew back on the Saturday night. I would have flying lessons. We were flying in and we were about to land in Belém, which is the city where we had our 1 day off where we could go eat, wash our clothes and get crazy and all that stuff. So we were going in and there was a terrible, terrible rainstorm, monsoon-like. And I'm on the headphones and the pilot, as we're coming in, starting to descend, yells to me, all right, I need you to look out the side windows and call out the distance to the water and keep calling it out. And I started laughing. I said, oh, this is one of those, in case the altimeter goes wrong, you know, is this one of those so I can learn how to, he goes, there is no fucking altimeter. Start calling out the distance to the water and keep calling out. I can't see a fucking thing. So I'm calling out, holy shit, is this for real? I don't know, 100 feet, 100 feet, 100 feet. And I got to 10 feet and I must have said 10 feet like 15 times. I go, why doesn't he put it down? And then I heard him say, holy shit. And I look up through the windshield and we are flying into a fishing boat. And I see this fisherman dive on his 11, 12-year-old boy to save him as our plane was just about to hit them. The pilot swerves and turns and we go up like this. The wings go up like this. So we just missed the fishing boat, but this wing hits and quickly that wing hits. And then we look and we are plowing. Now the floats are engaged, but we are plowing into an oil tanker. So we hit this pretty fucking hard. Luckily, like I said before, this plane was built to survive with plane crashes. So it tilts in the water, it starts going under. Tom Berenger is the back. We crawl out on the struts. Some of us could actually jump from the plane onto the oil tanker. One or two had to swim a little bit, but this is how it ended up. So this is us holding on to it after we've got up. That's Tom Berenger. That's me. That's the sound man. And there's a couple of people that were on the oil tank that were helping us.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Okay. And there we are posing as we hold on to it. We get picked up by a 16-year-old hot rod kid, and it's through the dirt roads of the Wild West to take us to the hotel. We're laughing, we're hugging, we're all like euphoric. We all want to just go straight to the bar. This kid, Tom Berenger, is sitting in the passenger seat, starts driving crazily, going around trucks and speeding up. And we almost got hit by a truck coming head on, and he dove in. And Tom Berenger, we all started screaming at the kid, if you do that again, we'll fucking kill you. You know, we just about died on a plane crash. We just slow the fuck down. So we're talking, laughing again, and looking, Tom's looking back, we're telling the stories, and he does it again. Tom Berenger lost it. He started going for the guy. He's choking and punching him. You motherfucker. The car is going like this. I'm jumping over the back seat, holding on to Tom. Like, let him go. We're gonna die. The car's going like this. And that's how we got home to the hotel in one piece. Needless to say, that driver did not have a job. Anyway.
Well, this reminds me of, this is not, I do not figure in this story, but it's a legendary story that I'll tell, which is because I think it's hilarious. Elizabeth Ashley, who played my mother in a film I did 40 years ago, who's one of our great actresses and also one of our great stage actresses particularly, was doing Agnes of God on Broadway. So in the middle of the performance of the first scene or first act, Liz stops the show and says, "Oh my God, there is a dog in the theater. Someone has let a dog into the theater. There is a dog in the aisle of the theater." And there was a pause. And then from the audience, she heard someone say, "I'm blind." Yeah, be careful what you what you notice when you're out there. Pay attention.
Yeah. What did you do with Elizabeth Ashley?
We did a movie called Split Image about religious cults, and she and Brian Dennehy played my parents, and James Woods played a deprogrammer, and Karen Allen played the young woman who brought me into the cult, and Peter Fonda was the cult leader. I did a picture with Peter Fonda.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How did that turn out?
It was a film the entire family could miss.
That is awful feeling being on stage when you don't know if the little fart that's coming out is going to liquefy and stain the period pants that they only had one of that was cost them the entire budget to get you so that you looked, it's terrifying. It is.
Yeah, that doesn't sound, Aiden, that doesn't sound like an abstract story for you. That sounds very real and.
No, that has happened.
It's too much information. That's TMI. TMI.
That happened. Luckily, it didn't happen, but it was, oh my God.
Please consider making a monetary donation to the Labyrinth Theater so that they may continue doing the great work that they are known for having done for these many years. As a matter of fact, when I say Labyrinth, it reminds me of the time that I auditioned for Queen Mary Zimmerman, who ultimately directed me in The Jungle Book. I sang a race song. It's called Shine, and it involves holding a note for 32 seconds. It's a labyrinthian note. You want to hear it? You do? Give to the Labyrinth Theater! Thank you.
I am Lab.
I am Labyrinth.
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 I am Lab.
I am Labyrinth.
I am Lab. I am Lab.
I am Lab.
I am Labyrinth.
Your donation, no matter how small, to Labyrinth Theater Company will go a long way in helping us overcome the devastating hit we took due to the pandemic last year. Thank you so much.
Okay, so my Labyrinth Theater Company story would have to be hands down my experience with Jesus Off the A Train. It was my first introduction into the Labyrinth Theater Company, my first introduction into this band of outcast actors who put together this beautiful, beautiful company that was so family oriented. And starting out at center stage in this small 70-seat black box theater, center stage on 21st Street and 6th Avenue, which was like a little home. You could go there between auditions and work on your material or go just network with people. We did a production of this play. It went on to get accepted into the Edinburgh Theatre Festival in Scotland, and then 2 runs in London on the Off West End at the Donmar, one of the hottest London Off West End theaters, and then the West End. And we changed the course of theater in that town. I mean, it was the hottest play that was going on at the time, between the technique that Philip Seymour Hoffman had brought to that production as director, the frenetic type of energy that we brought to that particular play. And everybody who was somebody in London was coming to see the work that we were doing. It solidified my feeling that from that point on, I knew I was going to be a serious actor and try to be as great as I could. I mean, everybody did. It was a brilliant moment in the history of the Labyrinth Theater Company. This is the type of art that we need to continue to support and fund. It's so much needed for our generation, the next generation, and the next generation to come. So anyway, love and light, God bless, and donate to the Labyrinth Theater Company.
I've been a member since the beginning, 1992, and in 29 years, I have so many spectacular memories, discoveries of my passion of what I want to do, and sharing it with my family, Lab. One memory that is fresh in my mind always is the closing night of Jesus Hop the A Train at the 13th Street Theater. It was December 31st, 2000 going into 2001, and it was our last show. There was a blackout. It was snowing. It was one of the coldest nights of the year, and the power went out. And we didn't have sound, we didn't have lights, and we had no heat. They came backstage and asked us, well, do you want to cancel the show? And we were all like, we don't understand the question. Of course we're not going to cancel the show. We're going to perform. We're going to perform in the lobby if we have to. And so they went outside, and most of the audience were waiting in the lobby, and they told them, you can have your money back and go, or if you want to, the show is going to go on. If you want to come in and watch it, you come in and watch it. No one left. The theater was full, and all we had was working lights. People were there with their scarves and their hats, and you could see the breath of the cold, but they were still there watching and into it. And we had our best show in that whole run. It just goes to show you how the camaraderie and the work that we put in really inspired us to just go there. And it's just one of the events that solidified that this is the place for me. Labyrinth Theater is my theater company and my family. Let's keep it going.
The very first show I ever did in New York was a lab show. It was The Trail of Her Inner Thigh by Aaron Cressida Wilson, directed by the one and only John Gould Rubin. And it was 20 years ago. And I remember my audition. I remember being so excited when I found out I got the part. We had a blast working on that show. And I just want to say thank you to Lab for welcoming me and encouraging me and supporting my work. And yeah, I don't know that I would be standing where I am right now without having had that experience. Labyrinth, I owe you one. Thank you so much, and I love you. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks. Actually, I have one more thing to say. I think I left out the most important thing, which is that Lab is such a vital part of the New York theater ecosystem. It has to survive. So I want to thank you in advance for your generosity, for your consideration in helping to save Labyrinth Theater Company. Yeah, it's imperative. So thank you.
Were you just telling me about when you were doing the show at the Cherry Lane?
I had these ideas for a long time to do a one-person show because I had been doing stand-up, but I had more things to talk about. I wanted to put video in there, and I wanted to talk more about my family and things that happened at the View, etc. And I did. Matt Williams was a director. He directed me in this. And like I said, he told me don't put his name on the playbill because the New York Times will discriminate against me based on the fact that he is a TV guy.
And they still did anyway.
Well, they did it, but they did it to me, not to him.
So they were out for the two of you. They just got you.
Yeah. But it was hard for me to do a one-person show because you have to stay on a script. And when I was doing stand-up, there was no script. I was just whatever, improvising, making it up, talking to the audience, walking around, whatever I wanted to do. So this was a little bit different. It wasn't just me talking. The whole thing was a play. It was a play, basically.
Oh, that sounds kind of great.
Which is why I didn't really enjoy it, because I was alone in the play. I've done other plays where there's a cast, and that's a lot more fun. You go out to dinner afterwards, you have somebody to bounce off of, there are cues. I like being in a play.
Do you want to do a play? Do you want to convert it to a play? Do you think you could make it into a play?
No. A sitcom, but not a play. Oh.
Do you want to, and were you doing the...
disagrees.
Did I tell you that when I first produced Jesus Hop the A Train, David Zayas, who played the mean cop in it, Valdez, was a cop. He was a real New York City cop. And he was working the midnight shift, and he worked as a cop the midnight shift. Then he came, and he was doing Oz at the same time. Then he'd go home, and he'd go to the studio and do Oz. And then, I don't know when he slept, and then he'd come and do Jesus Up the A Train at Labyrinth.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Superman.
He was well, he probably still is Superman.
Is he funny? Maybe we can use him in our play.
That'd be funny. He's not very Italian, but he's very funny.
No, well, no. I studied at the HB Studios. I studied acting.
Who was your teacher?
Alice Spivak.
Oh.
And
wow.
Stephen Scampel. You know, I stopped doing it because I had to make a living. And I realized, I was an actress first, but I realized that there are many women in New York who were my type, you know, New York Italo-Hebraic. And I knew that. I could see that. There were several. And that my chances of you only need one of those, you know, in the industry almost. You don't need it's not like a leading lady. It's a character part, and they always use the same people. So I thought this is not going to work for me, and I needed money, so I started doing stand up, and then I started making money.
Hey, this is Dylan Baker, and I'm asking you to give what you can to the Labyrinth. It's a great, great company. I've always loved their work. Speaking of work, I'm thinking back of a play. God, remember when we did plays? But all my stories come from Nathan Lane. I was fortunate enough to work with him a few times. You got to be ready when you're on stage with Nathan Lane. That's all there is to it. I was doing a play with him called November. It's a David Mamet play. He was the president and I was his chief of staff. We'd been running for a couple of months. And all of a sudden, one night, the curtain's about to rise and two of us are looking at each other going, we're ready to go, ready to go. Well, the curtain comes up and there's on the other side of the stage, this sofa and chair that a lot of business was around later in the play. At this point, we're back over at his desk, his Resolute desk, and we're just sitting there doing the beginning of the play. But over there, all of a sudden, when the curtain goes up, it grabs this coffee table and picks it up and just slams it down, breaks a couple of the legs. So the thing is just leaning like this out at the audience. And the audience is kind of, what was that bang? I wonder what so they're looking at it. They don't really know what's wrong. But Nathan and I, we're looking at each other going, yeah, that's wrong. What are we going to do? Because we set stuff on it, coffee and a coffee pot and all this different stuff. And, we've got to fix it. We're going along doing the play. The audience is okay. And I'm thinking, how am I going to fix that damn table? And there were some books beyond the sofa that we never touched, never came near. And I thought, look at those books. They're just about the right height. So finally, just before we were headed over there, I just kind of sauntered across the stage and went right into those books and lifted up the coffee table, slid the deck of books in, and it fit just perfectly and held the table up. And Nathan looked at me and said, oh, yeah, that'll work. We were able to go on with the play. And I think the audience thought it was part of the business because we weren't the greatest West Wing in history. So things were probably falling apart all the time. That's what I remember about that night. Because Nathan Lane is the kind of guy that when you're on stage, you better be ready. You better be ready every minute. And please be ready to give some money to the Labyrinth. It's a great, great group. They need it. They really need it bad, so help them out.
Hi, it's Parker Posey. Thank you for joining us tonight. And just reach into your pockets and give some money. Let's keep the theater alive and help New York out. Yes, thank you.
You are Labyrinth.
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 By supporting Lab today, you are an essential part of keeping Labyrinth and our mission alive. You are Labyrinth.
I did a play called Intimate Apparel by Lynn Nottage. It's a really beautiful, beautiful play, one of my favorites ever. It took place at the turn of the century, the last century, 1905. The play centered around Esther, who was a seamstress who lived in a boarding house. Esther sold intimate apparel for high society ladies, or sometimes gin-swilling, piano-playing prostitutes. That's who I played. So Esther starts up in the play a correspondence with this man named George, who is helping build the Panama Canal. Only thing is, Esther can't read or write. So she enlists the help of her good friend Mamie and her society woman friend, a different woman. And Mamie starts writing the letters for her, the letters to George, and also reads the letters to Esther and lets her know what George is saying. So in one pivotal, crucial scene, Esther comes in with the letter Mamie starts to read it, and we sense that something incredibly exciting is in this letter for Esther. And of course it is. The letter has this information, this all the stuff George says to Esther that's going to set off the chain of events in the play. So we got to read the letter. So, of course, Esther is played by the incredible Viola Davis. She hands me the envelope, and I pull the letter out, and somehow magically, I don't know, the letter sort of slips up and out of my hand and starts wafting away from me, moving to space. I don't know. So within seconds, I'm thinking, where could that letter be going? Because I'm watching that letter and it's going towards the audience. And I think, okay. Think of your homework. It's 1905. She's living in the Tenderloin somewhere. Probably, is there a fire escape? Could that be a fire escape? It's a fire escape. So within seconds, letter is still wafting, and somehow land in that sort of in-between space between the audience and the stage. Thank God there was no pit. So I decide in that split second to jump off the stage, grab the letter. Mind you, I'm in my intimate apparel, like practically my panties, and jump into the audience, grab the letter, and Viola like extends her arm like a superhero and literally pulls me back up onto the stage, and I dust the letter off and breathe, and we continue with the show. And it was a pretty wild moment, because I thought, how do you justify this moment and without getting the audience completely lost? Later on, I was speaking to Linda Grabat, who played the woman who ran the boarding house, and I was thinking, I asked her, do you think that was the right move to jump off stage? I mean, that must have been so weird or so jarring to the audience. Linda said, baby, whatever you say is the play. That just meant, unless the audience has seen it a million times, they will never know what mistake you made unless you tell them or indicate it or freeze. So, yeah.
So I'm at the Public Theater doing a wonderful play called The Basic Training of Pavlo Hummel. I'm Pavlo. It's challenging and I'm having a great time. And my mother is a wonderful actress named Sloane Shelton. And we have this dramatic scene in the middle of the play somewhere. And it begins with me rushing in from war, because this is about the Vietnam War. And I come rushing in and I have to change my clothes on the stage. So I rip off my pants. Of course, I have several layers of underwear on in case of an accident. And Sloane's waiting for me, and I'm about to sit down, and I come in, and I rip off everything. I'm having a very energetic day, and I managed to rip off all of my underclothes as well to reveal myself to be stark naked. But it's the Public Theater, and nobody really notices, but my God, I did.
Wearing a kaftan.
Yes.
Beautiful, babe.
Like a
Comfortable. Comfortable, yeah?
Yeah, it's like a sort of a lounging in my, it's quarantine wear. It's the new.
It's perfect. Do you have underwear on or no?
No underwear, Juliana, no.
No, good. Loose and free.
We should tell that story. That was recently we were talking about the fact that one time Jules came into my dressing room when we were doing The Good Wife, and there was a little, so it was all my, we're just chatting, and she said, oh, is that what you're wearing today? And then there was like all my and things, and there was a little pair of underpants, you know, like a little pair of underpants clipped on a little hanger. And she goes, oh, what's that? I said, oh, that's my Eli underpants. And she says, oh, is that a thing? You have character underpants? Is that, you know, what you do? I was like, no, it's not that. It's just that, you know, sometimes I forget to wear underpants, and it's really embarrassing when I come to work and I don't have underpants on. So they always give me a pair of underpants. And look, as soon as I said that, her face kind of like froze and just drained of color, and she was like, I would never forget to wear underpants. And I said, that's me right there, Juliana.
I had that 2 days ago, I went to production office for something, and they said, "Oh, we've got an extra fitting," and I was like, "Oh, well, not wearing fucking underpants."
How can you guys forget to wear underpants? I just don't understand
You just
that.
don't do it.
You just sort of, I don't know, just some trousers, I don't know, I just like it. Just like it. So you just sort of pull your trousers on and you don't have any underpants. And then the next thing you know, you have got to take them off and there's people there.
Yeah.
No idea why you're making me think of this. When I was a junior in college, I auditioned for all these summer stock companies. I didn't get in any of them. There was one summer stock company that was doing Equus and 3 Shakespeare plays. And I was desperate to do Equus. And I auditioned and I didn't get in. I didn't get in anywhere. So I called the guy running the thing and I said, "Listen, I will come and swing a hammer for free. I'll hang lights, but you have to let me audition for the plays. And if I get a play, you have to let me do this." And he said, "Okay." And I went thinking, I'm going to get a job at McDonald's. Maybe I'll get a part in a play and I'll hang some lights and whatever, and I'll be near the theater. I go down, I audition, I get Alan in Equus, I get Claudio in Measure for Measure, I get Snug in Midsummer Night's Dream. I don't have time to hang lights. I also don't have time to get a job at McDonald's. And I only have $35 to my name to make it through the summer. And they're not paying me anything because that was our deal. So I bought a book on edible wild plants. This is a young person's story. And monofilament fishing line, and broke into a cabin in the woods. And I would fish illegally in this pond after shows at night. And I was foraging and eating pine needle tea and God knows what roots and things, hoping look at your face, Alan.
What?
Hoping I wasn't going to poison myself. Anyhow, we're doing Equus and it's in the round and I'm on my way to the theater and I get this pain and I had violent diarrhea from God knows what plant substance I had eaten. And, you know, the last 20, 25 minutes of that play, you're nude on stage in the round. And the idea of being like a rectal Jackson Pollock in front of this audience. And it was by the time we got to that act that they had flooded me with the stage manager with kaopectate or something. And I didn't have the problem, but the terror. And I think I've probably, the first act, I'm sure I wasn't thinking about anything except what my butt was doing.
Oh my God, that is horrific.
Oh, I just can't, I've got many questions actually, but.
I know.
I was young. I was very, very young.
When I was first starting out, I had a commercial agent and I'd get sent on commercials. One was for Jamaican tourism. And they asked all the girls to come in bikinis. And I always used to say to my commercial agent, please don't send me in on commercials with models because I'm not a model. And it's mortifying sitting in the waiting room with these 7-foot tall Scandinavian stunners. And here's this like 5'7" Jewish girl with crazy hair. Anyway, they said, no, they want regular people, you know, regular looking girls, but you have to wear a bikini. And so I went into this room and there were 3 men sitting behind a folding table. And it was an empty room. And I walked in my bikini, which is already, you're just mortified. You know, it doesn't matter that you're 22.
So wait, did you go on the subway in a bikini or did you like get there and then you just took your clothes off? Where did you leave your clothes and everything?
Yes, Alan, I went on the subway in my bikini. Of course I had my clothes on. Could you imagine? And you take off, you know, I had a sweat pants and sweatshirt on. Take your clothes off and you're standing there and there's just 3 white middle-aged men staring at you. And they said, okay, so you're on a beach and you've been abandoned and you can't get off. And now you have to build a lean-to with the palm leaves that you find on the sand. Go.
Oh,
and I remember like, in my head, I thought, so I'm supposed to bend down now and then reach up to pretend to build my lean-to. And I bent down to get the non-existent palm tree leaf. And I stood up and I went, you know what? No. And I walked out the door. Did not book that job. But then I went in on an Ethan Allen commercial, and it was me and all these 7-foot tall, gorgeous women. And I went into the room and they said, just move furniture around. I was clothed. Then they had like a bench that you had to move, and then and fold a blanket and put it on the bed. But they actually had the things in the room from Ethan Allen. And I walked out in tears because no one said anything and it was horrible. And I called, remember, phone booths. I called my agent from the phone booth and I said, please don't send me in with all the models. It's demoralizing. They don't want me. I booked the job.
See?
And when I said to the director, why did you cast me out of all those beautiful women? And he said, because you were the only one who knew how to move furniture around the room.
And here are a few fun facts about LAByrinth Theater Company. The smallest budget for a lab show, $200.
The largest cast of a Labyrinth production was 26 actors, and that was in John Patrick Shanley's A Winter Party.
And the play Dreaming in Tongues featured 9 different languages,
including American Sign Language.
Que legal.
Très cool. The brilliant actor Mark Hammer, aka Hammer Time, decided to do In Arabia We'd All Be Kings in a black box theater without air conditioning in the summer, which led him to actually fall asleep, just like his character. He had to be awoken for real during a few live performances.
Talk about method actor.
In a performance of Our Lady of 121st Street, cast member Al Rafi broke his knee on stage.
I mean, it happened at the end of his last scene, right? So he goes off stage and the play continues uninterrupted, while he's carted off to the hospital in an ambulance.
We were doing Stephen Adly Guirgis's The Last Days of Judas Iscariot at the Public Theater. It happened to be Easter Sunday. It was a matinee. I was playing the lawyer, interrogates Satan, who was played by Eric Bogosian. And during the interrogation, all of a sudden, there was a blackout. And it seemed to go on forever, but it was probably 30 seconds. During the blackout, Satan says, "See, that's what you get for doing this play on Easter Sunday." And the audience cracked up, and then the lights miraculously turned on. However, that was just the beginning of why you don't do a play on Easter, apparently.
Because after the lights came back on and the play continued, a woman in the audience thought she was having a heart attack, and the play had to be stopped again.
You'd be happy to know she went to the hospital and was totally okay.
You'll also be happy to know that Sam Shepard, may he rest, still enjoys the theater. His ghost was seen by the janitor at the Cherry Lane Theater.
Don't tell nobody, but the lab was notorious for breaking the fire code back in the day.
Was is the key word there.
Joanne Woodward actually left a performance of Jesus Hop the A Train because it was so packed in all the aisles that her claustrophobia kicked in.
There wasn't a real dressing room at City Center, New York, so when Paul Newman came backstage, the entire cast happened to be in nothing but underwear. He acted like nothing was odd and that everyone was fully dressed, so the cast did too.
And they're all freaking out because it's Paul Newman.
And they were basically naked.
Apparently, Guy Ritchie doesn't like theater.
He told Madonna, after seeing Jesus Hop the A Train on the West End, which she helped produce, that now he understood why she liked theater.
Madonna, no big deal, loves Lab so much that she attended celebrity charades to help raise money for the theater.
And if you, like Madonna, enjoy going to the theater, please consider making a donation to the LAByrinth Theater Company.
To keep the doors open.
And the lights on.
And Sam Shepard's ghost entertained.
The lab could use a little love right now.
And anything that you can contribute helps.
Thank you so much for your generosity.
Hi, theatre
Hi.
community.
Theatre community. I'm April Bowlby.
Michelle Gomez.
Michelle Gomez. So my funny, well, I don't know if it's funny or if it's sad. It's my acting story that I have to share with you. I normally do comedy, and I auditioned for an interrogation officer who had to interrogate somebody. And I just couldn't bring it. And so after trying like 4 times, the casting director eventually said, not every actor can do every role, and I'm gonna let you know you can't do this. It's just not in your wheelhouse, and I think it's best that you accept it. So then I was a little heartbroken and I left, but as I was leaving I remembered I did not get my parking validated. So then I had to go back in there and ask for validation, which he gave me, but he kind of looked at me like I had no right to be there anymore.
Well,
so,
he just took your, he took your validation away.
Yeah, and then
was asked to
give
give
it
give it back. So, okay, so my story is another humiliating casting story. Got that call on the Friday night, you know, like go in on Monday, this role is yours, dress for the part, which we don't do in Britain. But I learned the hard way that we do that here in America. And so I turned up on Monday morning, and got into the restroom and got into the costume of a stripper. So and it was one of those casting calls where it was like a cattle call. So there was like loads of other people for loads of other shows, and then there's me in a G-string.
Yes,
and which did get a round of applause. As I bent for the soap.
She
and
commits to
the
it.
casting director came out, and she was like, oh, and she knew my name. That hadn't happened for a while. She was like, Michelle, you look fantastic. Wow, give us a twirl, which I did. And then she called for her assistant to come out. Look at Michelle Gomez. Look at this. She's really gone for it. And I sat down. I sat down. I was like, oh my, wow, I'm really in with a shout here.
That's
She just
right.
wanted to sit and have a wee quiet word with me. And then she said, so just to let you know, we cast it last night.
Oh no! Oh no!
But would you like to do it anyway, seeing as you went to the effort?
Wow. So
I
you
said, no, I wouldn't like to do it. Just
No.
seeing as I've made the fucking effort. No,
No.
I'm going to leave now.
Right.
And that's what I did.
And she
And
Yeah.
left. But now, you know, obviously bounced back, and here I am with April on the
on an HBO show. Doom Patrol.
Okay.
Hang in there, kids.
Hang in there,
It's
kids.
gonna be great.
It's just, you know, nobody said it was going to be easy, but it is worth it.
So I made my off-Broadway debut and got my equity card in 2006 in a production of Jose Rivera's School of the Americas at the Public Theater when the company was still in residence there. I played a Bolivian soldier alongside Felix Solis, Patricia Velasquez, Karina Arroyave, Nathan LeBron, and John Ortiz. We were recounting the last days of Che Guevara's life in the Bolivian jungle. The great Mark Wayne Davey directed that production, and it was an incredible experience. But one of the things that I always think about was that because we were depicting these last days of Ernesto Guevara when he was fighting with rebels and with the rebels in the Bolivian countryside, he insisted that we had live chickens on stage. There was always, we had live chickens, and they had to be housed every night and taken care of, and there was like, I think like PAs that just looked after the chickens. But yeah, that's one of my fondest memories of Labyrinth Theater Company, acting with chickens. It really keeps you on your toes.
I tried to be a Methodist for one movie I did. I was like, I'm going to be a Methodist. I was 20 years old, 19 years old, and I did a movie called Transamerica with Felicity Huffman, and I was, I'm like a country Canadian boy. But I was meant to be playing a male prostitute, drug addicted, hooker. And I was like, I really need to get into this. I need to like really So I would go to these clubs and sell myself. I wouldn't follow through with it, obviously. I did all of this work before, and then inevitably you get on set and it's like, I don't know how much of it really is in there. You know, ultimately, someone said to me the other day, who was it? Maybe it was Andy Garcia, who I'm working with. He's like, there's typecasting and there's bad casting. And he's like, those are the only two things that I've ever seen done properly. If you are inherently have some essence of damage or sweetness or something, he's like, inevitably they're hiring you because they want a little bit of that. You know, you can skirt the edges of it, but it's like, I've realized that there's certain things that I'm not supposed to be doing. No one wants to see me doing. There's no interesting part of me doing it. I would have to completely, Daniel Day-Lewis myself and probably fail miserably doing that. Me going to like sell myself as a prostitute was probably not that helpful to me doing a good job, and more to do.
But you're doing that anyway as an actor.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I would also like to ask whether or not that has to do with you realizing that maybe you were on the wrong career path. Maybe.
You could have done well.
I think so.
Do you find if you're doing something that you know is not great, but is something to keep the lights on, do you find that it feels any different in the execution of what you're trying to do, or are you just still trying to do the best that you can? And
you're still trying to go for it. But at some point during those, when the director says, could you just go there and then go over there and say that line when you get there, and then when you get back here, can you do that? You just go, yeah. What time's lunch? You know, at some point you can battle it, you can try and bring the best to it, but generally it's on those jobs where that fight, after a while, just the will to fight your ground and try and create a good performance just evaporates, and you're just waiting for the day to end. Or what I mean, there's that thing of, sorry, I'll just finish up on it. Those are the jobs where if you've got a beard, and it's usually useful, right? At the moment they say wrap, the end of thing, shave. Just shave, absolutely comes off. In the makeup trailer, just shave. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Oh, pickups? What pickups? Fuck. And you've got your bags packed and they're by the door of the fucking caravan, and you are on the way to the airport and gone. Lots of those.
Hey everybody, it's me again. It is very hot in this car, but one of our producers told me this was a good idea. I want to let you know about Lab's next project. It's happening this weekend, this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, streaming free on our website at 8 p.m. is a project we're calling Backseat, a 3-night festival of new work in support of New York City drivers. Backseat is a collaboration between LAByrinth and NYC Drivers Cooperative, a new worker-owned rideshare co-op that is helping to get drivers out from under the oppressive working practices of the rideshare giants like Uber and Lyft, practices that, of course, we all know target mostly BIPOC and immigrant communities. This is a member-driven project, meaning a member proposed it, and we said, yes, of course, we want to do that. 5 lab members then jumped in to produce. 15 lab members raised their hands to say they would create a new piece for this, and about 27 lab actors and friends jumped in to act. We have lab members who are drivers now, who have driven in the past, family members who are driving, and we went and talked with NYC Drivers Cooperative drivers and staff who are running the co-op. So this partnership and lifting up this community was a perfect fit for LAByrinth. Your generosity today makes projects, productions like this possible now and in the future. So thank you.
Hi, and thank you all for tuning in tonight and supporting the important work the LAByrinth has done for almost 20 years. The LAByrinth was created to stop the racial status quo in the theater by actively supporting and giving a voice to artists of color. That is still part of their mission statement today, and it is still as important as ever. So thank you for your generosity And thank you for supporting inclusive theater companies like the Lab.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
Nosotros somos Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth. We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
Somos Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinth.
We are Labyrinths.
Hi everybody, I'm John Hamm, and I wanted to thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate the Lab and to get them on solid financial footing so they can keep doing their amazing work. We've almost reached our goal, and if you are able to make a donation, simply scan the QR code below. Thank you for joining us, and remember, together, we are the Lab.
I have a story about a film I did. It was called Killing Them Softly, starring Brad Pitt and a bunch of other big stars. Part of my role was a huge fight scene where I have to beat up Ray Liotta, which is kind of a joke because Ray Liotta could have like thrown me across the fucking room. But I'm playing this boxer and many parts to it. Very physically challenging. I have a history of like back problems from dancing on Broadway and stuff, and but I've been doing pretty good with it. But I'd never really boxed, and that's a whole other kind of muscles and like twisting and doing sharp jabs and such. And we're in a parking lot 2 nights shooting from sundown to sunup. First night on the job, show up to rehearse in this parking lot in New Orleans. And we start to rehearse, and my back goes out completely. It's in full spasm, which wouldn't happen once in a while, and it's the worst thing. If it's never happened to you, it is the worst fucking thing ever. And I can't move. The director of this movie, who's very talented, but a dick, and Australian, so an Australian dick, which is something quite extra. And he was just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? We're all standing here waiting. What are you doing? And I'm like, my back is out. I can't move. I'm in pain. I'm injured. And he like humiliated me in front of like 150 people or whatever. We're all standing around, man. What's it gonna be, mate? What's it gonna be, mate? We shot the dialogue stuff, and I'm in agony. And the water from the rain machine sits in a big tank in a truck, so it's freezing. And my back, which is already seized up, and I'm shaking like this, and as I'm shaking, my back is even more painful, so I'm trying to act and not shake violently. They start to do the fight without me from behind with the stunt double, and that was the first night, and he was furious. So I call production, I get a fucking steroid shot. Doctor comes to my hotel room at 3 o'clock. I'm gonna shoot later on that night at 6 p.m. all night again. My cell phone rings. How's the back? I'm like, well, I took a steroid shot. I think it's going to be okay. He's like, it better be okay because I'm not going to have any sympathy for you. If you don't do it tonight, I'm going to just replace you. I'm going to call insurance day and I'm going to replace you. I hired you to be a boxer. I'm just going, don't worry. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. This is all so not okay, what's happening. As luck would have it, the steroid shot works great. I do the fucking fight scene. I'm like, and he's doing a cover. He does like 1,000,000 takes, and it's like swing. And he said, okay, go back to the beginning. I'm getting more tired and more tired. And finally Ray goes, whoa, enough already. Somebody's gonna get hurt. Don't be greedy. How many of these fucking things do you need? And he says to Ray Liotta, I am greedy. How many can you do? Like, that's the kind of guy he was. We finished the whole fucking thing. Went great. And he like, at the end in the morning, we're going home, and he says to me with an evil grin, he goes, how's your back? Real fucking asshole. P.S. Bobby Cannavale works with him on some movie. I think it was the Marilyn Monroe movie that he did. And I was telling Bobby about this nightmarish experience, and he goes, well, he loves you, bro. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, he loves you, man. He thought you were great. Happy endings.
Very early on in my career, when I was auditioning, and I show up to this audition, and there's like 12 guys sitting out in this hallway. And when I see these 12 guys, it's like, holy shit. I know this guy from that show, this guy from that. Like, it was like, you know, veterans in there and this rookie showing up, right? So what happens is, it's one of those auditions that you can hear everything that's going on inside the room. So every guy that went in, he's like, ah, 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 you know, every guy going in, doing the same shit. So there was like 2 guys and me left. They called my name, and I go, no. I'm not ready. Can you take these 2 guys? I'll go last. I'm good like that. So these 2 guys go in, bah, bah! And then I said, okay, Mr. Guzmán, your turn. I come in and I go, hey, how you doing? How you been? You really want to fuck with me? I don't really think you want to fuck with me. You know why? It wouldn't end well for you. And the director cuts me off and he goes, oh my God, thank you for giving me a choice. It wasn't my worst audition, but I learned to not follow the flock. Okay? So, but anyway, I got the part. Hey, I want to thank everyone out there for supporting the lab. Theater is very important. Us actors always need like a place to go to really work and hone in our craft. The lab does that. It provides that to many actors. Thank you for the love. Thank you for supporting the lab. I'm Luis Guzmán, and I gotta go find me a piragua. Peace.
Hey everybody, I'm Bobby Cannavale, and I wanted to share maybe my greatest memory of working in the theater. And it was 10 years ago this year that I was lucky enough to be cast in Stephen Adly Guirgis' play, The Motherfucker with the Hat, which represented the LAByrinth Theater Company's Broadway debut. And it was Broadway debut for many of us in that cast, and for our playwright. You know, 10 years ago, we weren't given that much of a chance. People just didn't like the idea of the play. I don't think The Great White Way was ready for a play with the title, The Motherfucker with the Hat. In the weeks leading up to opening, during our previews, we had a lot of bad shit written about us. We didn't have a lot of goodwill, and as I said, I don't think people wanted us there on Broadway. My memory is attached to this because I remember about 3 days before opening night, our director, Anna Shapiro, sat us down to tell us that we did have the cards stacked against us, that we weren't having good press written about us, and that there's a chance that we might not make it to opening night, which was crushing for us. I remember that very night, I asked the cast if we could get together at 5 minutes before curtain, and we did. All of us, Elizabeth Rodriguez, Annabella Sciorra, Yul Vasquez, Chris Rock, and myself, and we stood all together with our arms around each other, and we initiated a new theme for ourselves. We called it 4 Walls. And we said, we know this play. We're living up there for each other. We're dying up there for each other. Let's not worry about who's out in the audience. Let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it for each other. Let's put up 4 walls. And let's live this play. Anyway, we did that. We did open the next night. And the play ended up on a successful run, and a very successful run. We were nominated for 6 Tony Awards, among other awards, and it really did help put LAByrinth, continue to put LAByrinth on the map as an important bastion of theater, creativity. And so today, I'm asking you to help keep our walls up. Do whatever you can to keep the LAByrinth right where we are in New York City, creating the kind of experiences that are unlike any other, really. They've provided me with my greatest memory in the theater, and I know they've provided many, many theater goers with their favorite memories of being in the theater. So do what you can, please, to help us out. Thanks.
I want to thank all of you who have given to help the lab. The New York theater community is coming back with robust energy thanks to the kind of generosity you have displayed tonight. Together, you are helping New York rise as the artistic hub it has always been. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for coming together and giving to support the lab.